Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Invests. About 7 or 8 years ago, I remember watching Your Money, Your Core on Sky Business, which unfortunately no longer exists. And I would make fun of experts, and these are people who get paid to know about companies on the ASX, who would be asked questions about particular companies, and their reply would be, I've never heard about this company. And I thought that was quite ludicrous that you're an expert and you don't know about a company on the ASX. I thought it was their jobs to know about every single company. However, there are over 2,000 companies on the ASX, and it is hard to know that to know about every single company, particularly when a lot of companies go bankrupt, they merge with other companies, or they get bought out, and then more companies go through the IPO process. In fact, over the past 9 months or so, a significant amount of companies have IPO'd on the ASX. And just today, I've looked at a couple of announcements, and I didn't even know these companies existed. And that is true for the focus of this video today. Pantoro is a company I didn't know existed until I read their quarterly cash flow report, and I went, oh, it's positive. They actually are producing cash in operations, so I'm going to have to do a video on this company. So I thought maybe Pantoro changed their name, or maybe their recent IPO. No, they're not. They have been on the ASX for quite a while. It's just that this name never popped up when I looked through announcements. So sometimes some of the companies just slip through all your filters, and Pantoro is an example of a company I didn't know exists, and is also an example of why I like doing these videos, because I am looking at companies I probably would never have looked before I started this video series. Who is, or what does Pantoro do? They are a gold producer. They have one gold mine in production. I think that's called the Halls Creek project, most likely near Halls Creek. They have another project called Norseman, which they have a 50% stake in. If I remember correctly, they bought that 50% a few years ago, and they are spending a little bit of money trying to get that project in production. It does seem like that Norseman project has a lot of reserve, or a lot of gold potential they can mine. Ticker code of Pantoro is PNR, market cap 289 million, and because they are in production, Halls Creek project, revenue of 87.9 million, and they are, or were, operational cash flow in the trailing 12 months of 33.2 million. But I'll show you why sometimes you should not only look at operating cash flow for mining companies, you also have to look at investing and financing activities, because you will see a lot of these mining companies spend a lot of money on capital expenditure and exploring activities. Enterprise value to operating cash flow 7.3. Typically for mining companies, I would like that a little bit lower, towards about 5 to 7. For other companies on the ASX, I do prefer less than 10. If you do want to have a read of Pantoro's Appendix 5B, they released that on the 21st of July, and included in that Appendix 4C, if I remember correctly, they did provide a fair bit of activity summaries about what they're doing right now, particularly in their Norseman project. Before we look at Pantoro's June quarter's results, just want to go back to March quarter, just to have a sort of a view of how this company was performing before the current quarter or the previous quarter. Receipts and customers, 20.7 million, and that meant the company was operational cash flow positive by 10.3 million. However, that's not the whole story with mining companies. I've already mentioned this before. A lot of companies that do release Appendix 4Cs, this is where I stop my journey. Well, not stop it, but I don't really look at investing or financing activities all that much, because sometimes some companies don't have much activity in regards to those two sections of the Appendix 5B or 4C. So delve a little bit deeper. I did go through to section 2 and 3, particularly looking at capital expenditure, which is property, plant and equipment, and exploration costs. Pantoro began the quarter, the March quarter, with 60.6 million, and through operating activities they raised 10.3 million. But when you take into account that they spent $8.8 million on capital expenditure and $6.7 million on exploration and another $4 million on other stuff, that meant they did burn through cash about $9 million of cash through the quarter. So they ended the quarter with $51.5 million. So in the end, even though they were operational cash flow positive, they were not free cash flow positive. They were losing cash in the business because of other activities separate from operating activities. So it is wise to go through all sections of the cash flow statement when you're looking at companies like Pantoro. So I do recommend having or doing that with all mining companies and those sort of companies that do spend a lot of money on capital expenditure. Now on to the June quarter for Pantoro. Let's see how things are going for the company. And in fact, when you look at receipts from customers, it actually did increase from 20 odd million to 22.4 million. Now in saying that, they did increase production and staff costs. So because they were spending more money on that, they weren't quite as operational cash flow positive as the previous quarter. So it's gone down from 10 million to 6.6 million. They began the quarter with $51.5 million of cash. They spent $2.7 million on capital expenditure, $3.4 million on exploration, and $4.4 million on others. You might be asking, what does others mean? Well, for Pantoro, that was $3.1 million on capital expenditure and feasibility studies, and $1.4 million on ROU lease repayments. I'm not sure exactly what ROU is. But overall, the money coming out through financing and investing activities was greater than the cash flow in operating activities. And that meant, again, they lost money for the quarter. It went down from 51.5 million to 47.4 million. But still, Pantoro has a lot of cash on hand here to do what they want to do with that. And I believe that one of the most important things management of companies have to decide when the company is producing money in operations is how to deal or spend that money. And Pantoro management right now is in the belief that the best way they can deal with the money is to try to get Norseman into production by spending on capital expenditure, on exploration, and that sort of thing, and others, which includes feasibility studies for Norseman. So they believe at this point in time, the best use of their money they're making in Horse Creek project is to spend for the future potential growth in the company instead of giving the money back as dividends, that sort of thing. One of the things I like to do when I look at a company, particularly for the first time, is just to see how the shares on issue of a company have changed over time. What I have here is a table of the share price, shares on issue, market cap, revenue, operating cash flow, and free cash flow of Pantoro since 2015. So I just wanted to see how dilutive the management have been to shareholders. And there is a bit of a red flag here for Pantoro because shares on issue have increased from 346 million in 2015 to current shares on issue of 1.4 billion. So shares on issue have increased by fourfold over the past 6 years. That's not good news for shareholders overall, particularly when you look at the valuation of the company in that 6-year period. In fact, the market cap has gone from 20 million to just shy of 300 million. That's a 15-fold increase in the overall valuation of the company. However, when you look at the share price increasing during that time, it's only been a 4-bagger. So the company's valuation or overall valuation is increasing faster than the share price increase because of the dilutive effect of capital raisings. And one of the reasons the company is needing to raise capital over and over again is because even though they are operational cash flow positive by between $20 and $30 million over the last 4 years, they are free cash flow negative, which means they're spending a lot of money on capital expenditure and exploration and evaluation. So that's one thing to keep in mind for companies like this is how shares on issue have been changing over time. And that is a bit of a red flag when it comes to Pantoro right now. Now let's look at some charts for Pantoro. The first chart here is the weekly chart going back to the middle of 2015. Around that time they went into production. Share price was between about 5 and 6 cents. And we did see a nice little bull run with the Pantoro share price over the next 2 years. In fact, it went from about 5 or 6 cents to a high of 38 cents in the middle of 2018. So a nice little return for shareholders during that period, particularly if you sold out near that high, because if you didn't sell out, the share price then went down for quite a while for the next 2 years, going from that 38 cents to a low of about 6 cents during the depths of the COVID-19 financial panic. Then there was a V-shaped recovery, fairly rapid V-shaped recovery. The share price went from 6 cents to about 29 cents in a few months. And that high was in July, August of last year. So for the past year, nothing really has happened with the Pantoro share price. It's been range trading between about, we'll say between about 19 cents and 26 cents. And when the share price has been range trading, and we'll see this range trading when we look at the daily chart in the next slide, there's no reason to buy into a company until it breaks out of that range. When we focus on the daily chart for Pantoro, going back to March of last year, 2020, when the share price was as low as 6 cents, and this also includes a rapid rise in the share price with that V-shaped recovery. Hype in this company got a little bit too hot, and that's why the share price went to a high of 29 cents in July of last year. I think that's also coincided with the top in the gold prices. I remember just after July last year, towards August of 2020, that's when the price of gold came under pressure. From about September, October of last year, the share price in Pantoro has been range trading between about 26 cents and 18.5 cents. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, I would not be taking a position in this company just yet because of that. Some traders might be buying when the share price gets to the bottom of this range and then sell when it gets to the top. That's just their preference. I'd be waiting for a breakout in the share price above this range, so above about 26 cents, preferably on some good news and increase in volume as well. I've just noticed over the past 5 or 6 months, the volume traded in this company has been dropping. So the market is becoming less and less interested in Pantoro right now. Right this very moment, share price in Pantoro is about 20.5 cents. So it's near the bottom of this range. So if you really, really wanted to buy a position in this company, now could be a good time to take a small position and then just see what happens over the next few months. And then if it goes below the bottom of this range, I'd be maybe thinking about selling. The next 4 companies on my mission to-do list, if you don't know what my mission is, it's to cover every single company that achieves a positive operational cash flow June quarter. That's true for GrewLife, Damstra and Cogstate. Not quite true for Megaport. They're almost operational cash flow positive. However, Megaport is a popular company, so I just wanted to do a video on Megaport. So look out for these videos on these 4 companies over the next few days, or if you've been watching this after July 26, more than likely videos on these companies have been released. That is all I have for this Appendix 5B June quarter video for Pantoro. If you know a lot about this company and you would like to leave a bit of feedback about your opinion on Pantoro and the future of the company, I'd love to hear your opinion. So just leave it in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, I'm not a financial advisor. If you do need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.